All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. We just want to say hi and thank you everyone to coming out for this webinar to talk about updates in special education services during these COVID-19 school closures. As you can see, we're doing this from our respective homes. I'm in my apartment, and we really hope everyone out there is staying safe. I'm Allison Morris. I'm going to let Francesca introduce herself.
I'm Francesca Demo. I'm one of the attorneys at the Valhalla office of the Cuddy Law Firm.
We're both special education attorneys at the Cuddy Law Firm, and we're going to go through some important takeaways from a recent April 27th New York State Education Department, or NYSED, supplemental memo, where they're telling school districts what their obligations are and what families' rights are during these COVID-19 school closures. And I'm actually going to put a link to that supplemental memo in the chat so that everyone can look at it if they want to. We just want to also let everyone know that this is being recorded, so you can watch it at any time, and it's also going to be translated into Spanish as well. First, we just wanted to let everyone know there has been an update regarding school closures. The governor has announced that schools are going to remain closed through June 22nd, the rest of this academic school year. This does mean that your child is going to continue to receive virtual instruction through the remainder of this school year. No decision or determination has been made yet, though, about summer services or summer school programs, which take place in July and August. So your school should be keeping you updated on that. Keep your ears open for Governor Cuomo's orders regarding summer services. And as soon as anything comes out, we'll let everyone know.
Okay, the second thing we wanted to let everybody know about is that NYSED reiterated that both initial evaluations and reevaluations for students with disabilities must take place on a timely basis. However, because observations and assessments of students that must be conducted in person or in face-to-face must be held off until schools open, the school districts are being encouraged to work with the parents to reach mutually agreeable extensions of the timelines where appropriate. In addition, assessments that do not require face-to-face observation or assessments can be conducted virtually. So Zoom, Microsoft Teams, whatever your district is using. And the evaluators can determine on a case-by-case basis if any assessment can be conducted virtually. So you might have that conversation and determine it might not be appropriate, or it may be depending on what they're looking to do. Once schools reopen, if any assessments were conducted virtually, parents in the districts should then further discuss whether those evaluations provide sufficient information or whether further information is required. This means whether you need an additional evaluation or a reevaluation at that time. Therefore, it's up to you and your family if any evaluation can be conducted remotely during this time, whether you want to proceed with the evaluation in this manner or wait until schools reopen for the evaluations to take place.
So the third thing we wanted to let everyone know is that this updated memo from NYSED reiterates that school districts should be communicating with families in their preferred language or mode of communication. So if your primary or preferred language is not English and you're not receiving communication or information at this time in your preferred language, or if there's a different mode of communication you would prefer to receive information in, right? So if you'd rather get emails over calls or vice versa, they keep sending all these emails, but you really want to talk to someone, you prefer it to be a call or an email or a letter in the mail, even though a lot of people aren't getting mail these days, let the school district know. You are entitled to get information in the mode that you want the information communicated in. So inform your school district of this and document your request, right? Keep your own records that you let them know. I'd rather be receiving documents in Spanish. I'd rather be receiving information via email than text messages.
Okay, next, NYSED made it clear that while the school districts have flexibility regarding the provision of instruction services during this time, that schools may not be able to provide all of the services in the same manner they're typically provided. So, as we know, students in school were receiving in-person instruction, sometimes hands-on instruction. Here, we're really leaning towards the virtual Zoom or phone calls or maybe even packets, depending. But the thing to note here is that NICE had reiterated that school districts must ensure that to the greatest extent possible, each student with a disability is being provided the same special education and related services identified on their IEP. So NICE had further clarified that providing students with the services and instructions as per their IEPs is now the most efficient way to mitigate the need to provide compensatory services in the future. So parents should be documenting and keeping track of any instruction and or services their child is not receiving or that is not meaningful to their child, as you may be entitled to make up instruction and or services once schools reopen. So like I mentioned before, if your student's simply receiving packets, that's not working for him or her, document that, keep note of it, and then you'll see what you can do with that once schools are open again.
The fifth thing we wanted to talk to everyone about is something Fran and I had spoken about in a prior webinar, and NICE had made clear in this updated supplemental memo that individualized education program meetings, IEP meetings, they're also called annual review meetings, and initial eligibility meetings for special education programs and services can and should be taking place right now. These can be conducted virtually, they can be conducted over the phone. I've had one via Zoom, one via Google Meet, so they can and should be taking place right now. Any IEP or initial eligibility meeting should be creating a program for a student to enable that student to make meaningful educational progress, right? That's the standard. But during this sort of weird time where schools are closed, that IEP, it needs to be developed to give the student what they need as if schools were open. It should not be written to accommodate this temporary situation. So it should not be, if you go to an IEP meeting and they're letting you know, right now we can do occupational therapy twice a week, let's make it on the IEP occupational therapy twice a week. No, the IEP is supposed to be, what does Johnny need? And if Johnny needs occupational therapy 4 times a week, and that's what would be happening is if this was a normal IEP meeting and schools are open, that's what the IEP should be written to say. School districts can create these contingency distance learning plans, right? Johnny's IEP right now says he should be getting occupational therapy 4 times a week. Right now, all we can do during this virtual learning is 2 times a week. We just want everyone to be on the same page. That's absolutely fine. And if you actually attend a New York City Department of Education school, a DOE school, you actually should have received something called a remote learning plan, letting you know what your child is going to be getting during this time. But any IEP created should not be looking and taking into account this situation. It's as if schools were open, what does the student need?
Okay, moving along, regarding the provision of instruction and services during this time, NICE had explained that schools may need to provide services after school hours or during the weekends based on the individualized needs of the student. So really the quote here is, based on the individual circumstances, a school may need to consider provided services during alternate times and days that are mutually agreed upon with the parents in order to accommodate students, parents, school, and service delivery personnel. So if you know your son or daughter's not going to be able to do something later in the evening after school, maybe propose a weekend date. This is something that you could be in communication with the school about and try to work on outside of school hours if need be.
And number 7, the last thing we just wanted to talk to everyone about that we thought was really important from the supplemental memo is them letting everyone know if your child attends an out-of-district placement, an approved private school placement, or a BOCES program, this NICED memo makes clear it's your home school district, your district of residence where you live. They're still responsible for ensuring your child is receiving appropriate special education instruction and services during this time. They've said it's the home school district that, quote, must ensure continuity of learning and special education services are provided to students with disabilities by their out-of-district placement. So if your child is attending that out-of-district placement an approved private school or a BOCES program, that school should be in communication with your home school district. So the home school district knows what services and instruction your child is getting during this time. Because, as Fran had mentioned, they can determine whether compensatory services are needed when schools reopen, right? There's an IEP that says Johnny should be getting, instruction in a 611 class, speech language 5 times a week, occupational therapy 4 times a week, and he is at an approved out-of-district placement. They need to know, is that approved out-of-district placement doing that? Because if they're not, then you may be entitled to make up services. So if your child is attending one of these schools or programs, just because the school and your home school district are supposed to be talking doesn't mean they will, right? As Fran has mentioned, and as we spoke about in prior webinars, you should be keeping track and documenting everything. The instruction your child is receiving, if it's meaningful, what they're not receiving. Keep notes and records of it. Keep your district, updated. Just wanted to let you know, Johnny's only getting OT twice a week. He's supposed to be getting it 4 times a week. And when schools reopen and the time comes, you can see if you're entitled to those make-up services for any lack of appropriate instruction or related services.
Okay, so at this time, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type those out in the Zoom group chat option. We'll read them out and answer them. And we also want to thank everybody for attending. Some last reminders are to document and keep records of the instruction and related services your child is or is not receiving during this time. So you're going to be basing that off of what their IEP says, and let the district know any issues you're having with the instruction during this time, whether that be you're not getting it at the frequency the IEP says, whether the provider's calling and just saying hello and not providing any instruction, letting the kids talk to each other unstructured, or just sending packets. Because at the point when schools reopen, your child may be entitled to make up services if this is the case. If you have any questions, again, please do not hesitate to write them into the group chat or contact us at our office. We're here for you during this time. We understand it's very frustrating, but we will get through this and we'll get through it together. I'm going to copy and paste some resources here into the group chat for everybody. The first one is the NYSED website, New York State Education Department, that Allison touched base on in the beginning and provided a link to the specific supplemental memo. I'm also going to provide the link for the free meals in New York City schools, Advocates for Children, which is a nonprofit agency that also has a lot of great information on their website. There are alternative learning centers in the Bronx offering one-on-one tutoring to students grades 6 through 12. Seal House, which has a wealth of videos. The National Alliance of Parents in Special Education, NAPC's website. Council of Parent and Attorney Advocates, COPA's website, as well as Synergia and New York Public Interest website, which has a list of resources for remote learning. And I'm going to copy those all into the group chat now. And we'll wait around a little bit. If anyone has any questions, again, feel free to write them in the group chat. Also to mention, we are doing this same exact webinar again tonight at 8 p.m. If you have any friends or family members you think may be interested in this information. As Allison mentioned in the beginning, this will be translated into Spanish and uploaded onto our Facebook page for any friends or family members you have whose dominant language is Spanish. Okay, I'm going to assume there's no questions. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Feel free to reach out to us if anything arises, okay? Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Stay well.